everybody. Before we jump into today's episode, we have two sponsors we want to say thank you to for supporting this show. The first one is Routine. You guys have heard me talk about Routine, honestly, back from the early days of the podcast, and it's still a product I use every single morning. They have a prompt for me here. I'm going to do a little impromptu on this ad read today because honestly, this is a product that I truly believe in. And so I'm just going to tell you guys exactly what I think and why. First and foremost, this is a stat that they shared, but when you sleep, you lose between a pound and a pound and a half of water. And most of that's just sweating while you sleep. I used to not know if that was actually true, to be honest. I felt like a pound to a pound and a half of water seemed like quite a bit while I slept. But the one thing I did constantly pay attention to when I started using Routine was just the fact that before using Routine, I always felt a little dehydrated in the morning. And I'm one of those people that when I get up really early usually. I work out. One of the first things I do is some form of fitness. It's just like what I do before everyone's awake. And so it's very easy for me to grab a coffee, pre-workout, an energy drink, something with caffeine in it, and just go. When I am good about using Routine, first, I basically they come in these little single serve packets. They contain half an organic lemon, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, Himalayan sea salt, all 6 essential electrolytes, and they have no sugar in them at all. A lot of hydration products are going to have sugar. So one of the things about Routine that I love is that there's no sugar in there. So when I am good about doing this consistently, I will take one of those single serve packets, I'll throw it in my mixer bottle, and whether I also put in a pre-workout or something with caffeine or I just drink that separately, I try to drink that first. And the days I do that, I do genuinely feel hydrated and just have a different form of clarity all morning. A lot of people have tried to make their own homemade versions of Routine, right? You see people they take a shot of the apple cider vinegar, they put a little sea salt, a little lemon in a drink. This is essentially that, but in a product that you can take with you on the go, have it ready for you first thing in the morning. I know me personally, when I'm groggy rolling out of bed, the last thing I want to do is, squeeze a lemon, cut lemons up, go get the apple cider vinegar, find my sea salt. I just rip this packet open, throw it in my water, drink it, and it's good to go. You can try yours today. If you haven't tried it yet and you've been listening to this podcast for years, just try the damn Routine. Give it a shot. You can use code ShaneWhite30 and get 30% off your first order. So you get 30% off by using code ShaneWhite30 and go to yourroutine.com. To make it even easier, I've added the link to yourroutine.com in the show notes. So just click on the show notes for this episode, click on the link to yourroutine.com, and don't forget to use code ShaneWhite30. All right, guys, today's episode is also brought to you by NeuroRoast. Again, I'm going to go a little off script here. NeuroRoast is a product that I also came across during this year of 2023. They are a coffee company that's helping you optimize your brain function and overall well-being. This is another product that, to be honest with you, when I first started working with it, I was a little on the fence. I was like, do I really want to have mushrooms in my coffee? Well, folks, I will tell you, when I use NeuroRoast, one of the things that has stood out to me the most is I'll back up. People that know me know that I have way too much caffeine, typically. One of the things this year I've done a good job of is cutting out alcohol. Not completely, but predominantly, I don't touch a lot of alcohol anymore. What I think I've actually done the other way, though, is add a lot more caffeine. So I do definitely drink too much caffeine. That's something I need to work on next year, is just trying to minimize how much of that. But NeuroRoast is something that has actually helped me because of the way they've formulated their coffee. Like, unlike regular coffee, which is still something I consume, but NeuroRoast specifically doesn't cause jitters or crashes. Mushroom coffee provides more balance and sustained energy, allowing you to stay focused and productive throughout the day. So the times I do use NeuroRoast, I'll be honest, I just don't feel that jittery, like, I'm jumping out of my chair or standing here at my desk jumping around feeling. So give NeuroRoast a try. They have some really good flavors. I'll be honest too, the two guys that started NeuroRoast are just really good dudes based out of New York, and they're hustling, and hopefully they can get some people to try NeuroRoast this holiday season by listening to this podcast. So for you folks who've been on the fence, I'm telling you, it tastes delicious. They've done a fantastic job of making this coffee not only be functional, but taste fantastic. And if you want to try NeuroRoast, you can use code ShaneWhite. So it's super simple, just ShaneWhite at checkout. you'll also get 30% off. So if you go to neuroroast.com, and once again, I have added that to the show notes. So just click into the show notes while you're listening to this episode. You can click on NeuroRoast link directly. Don't forget to use code just Shane White, and you'll get 30% off your order. Hope you guys love both these products. I'm trying to not only bring you guys products that I use, but that I believe in on the podcast. I'm not taking ad reads for any brands that I don't really believe in. So anyway, hope you guys love both those products, yourroutine.com and neuroroast.com. I've added those links to the show notes. I hope you guys love it. And I got an awesome guest coming up right after this. Just to share a little bit more about the different things that I'm personally testing in my life just to become a healthier, better human. You know, I'm by no means an expert at any of these things that I talk about on here, but I definitely think I do test and try different things, you know, a lot more maybe than the average person. And I thought as I'm testing these things, as I'm trying new things, I would say my inner circle of friends and family and colleagues, you know, they hear me ramble on and on about different things. And I thought, why wouldn't I just try to maybe do one of these a week? We'll see how long I do that for, and just share a topic every week. So the one I wanted to start with today, and mainly because this was the first one where I think a lot of people saw that I was using this device and had questions about it, because it's a little bit bigger of a hurdle than, let's say, you know, like a wearable, like a Whoop or an Aura, which I'll get into in another episode. The device we're going to talk about today is a CGM device. Specifically, I've been using the Levels CGM, and a CGM just stands for a constant glucose monitor. So for everyone listening, you know, you've probably seen or heard of constant glucose monitors. Before the last few years, the main purpose of those was someone who already was diagnosed with diabetes to be able to track their current blood glucose. And what has become a more and more common use of these devices is folks who just want to understand their metabolic health. And your metabolic health is really just a simple, I mean, I'm going to oversimplify this probably, but it's really just a way that you can have a good understanding of how different foods, beverages, stress, sleep, exercise affects the way your body processes glucose. And so it's one of those things for me where I had just gotten that blood work done. I haven't shared that. I'll do that as another episode on here. I got some blood work done. You know, I'm 32. I turned 33 here in a couple months. I've never really gotten a full blood panel done before. And so when I did that full blood panel, there were a few things that were a little surprising, a little bit alarming that came up. And one of the suggestions from the team I was working with was, you know, why don't you wear one of those CGMs just to see if there's things in your daily diet that are driving up your blood glucose more than you would think. And so I decided to make the investment. I'll share links in the episode all about, you know, how you can go about getting a glucose monitor. Transparently, one of the things I wanted to share on this episode was honestly something that really pissed me off, which was someone who got a blood test done realized that there's probably things that I can improve and definitely need to change in my own, you know, lifestyle as far as, you know, eating goes, and just wanting to learn more. So, you know, willing to put the financial resources out there to purchase one of these devices, having a blood test that validated some markers that were concerning to the point where, hey, I don't want to be a diabetic, and I would actually think that I would be in a camp of people who you would never point a finger at and say, hey, you're, you know, potentially pre-diabetic. But some of the numbers I got back would actually say that I was pre-diabetic, which is crazy for me. That was a crazy finding. So I wanted to go out and see if I could solve this myself and find out, what am I eating on a normal basis that could potentially be an issue. I went down the normal route. I actually tried to I don't currently go to a general doctor, a whole nother long story, but I just didn't really believe a lot of the things that this doctor was trying to prescribe me, and in the ways that he wanted to go about figuring out what some things, you know, were going on with me. I just didn't generally believe he was fully on board with not just prescribing things is the best way to describe it. So trying to find a new general doctor. And in the meantime, I started with just going through like Doctor on Demand and telling them my blood results. And so they actually prescribed me a CGM. Well, come to find out that if you aren't diabetic today in America, even when I pay for health insurance, and it's very, very expensive as an entrepreneur, I don't get a huge discount like you do if you work for a big company. even with getting a prescription from a doctor because of blood results that I got that said I was pre-diabetic, they would not, like the insurance basically declined it. And so what that meant, if I just wanted to go out and buy a CGM, it was going to be an X what it should be. So that was frustrating just in general, just so everyone out there knows. And I would love to put this out there as a challenge. That's one small voice that's just bullshit, to be honest. That the fact that someone, wants to improve their health and the health insurance industry says, they literally told me word for word, you are marked as pre-diabetic. We will not start paying for a device until you've continued that lifestyle change and become diabetic and your life is at risk. Unbelievable to hear someone say, I literally was on the phone on a walk with my family. You can ask my wife. And they told me this, and they were kind of laughing as they said it. And I literally go, you're kidding me, right? You're telling me that. You're telling me literally that you want me to be closer to death's door before I can get this prescription filled and actually get a CGM. And they said, yes, as shitty as that sounds and as effed up as that sounds, that's exactly what the truth is. So just so everyone knows who listens to this, that is truly how our healthcare system works. I've heard this on podcasts before, and I couldn't agree more. It's more of a sick care than it is a health care. They'd rather take care of you once you're sick so they can prescribe you things than help you never get sick in the first place. And that's a huge problem that I have that I'm sure I'll address in future podcasts. So anyway, let's jump to the CGM. Let's jump right into it. So I end up going with Levels. It honestly, I don't know the folks at Levels, love what they're doing, but it's kind of a gray hat, honestly, the gray hat scenario. So basically what I had to do is, I paid a little bit of a premium. I got the CGM directly through them. Long story short, they have a process where they can get you the CGM at a premium. And eventually, technically, my data is part of a study. So that's how you kind of go around it. You're basically part of a medical study. So you get the CGM. And first and foremost, absolutely hate needles. Cannot stand needles. The sight of my own blood freaks me out and completely and utterly makes me want to pass out. So the thought of getting a CGM was way out in left field for me. It truly was, just to see, hey, can this help my overall health and well-being? End up getting the CGM. The first time I did it with my wife, after we got the boys down for bed. The process is simple. It really is. I mean, you really just kind of you clean the surface on the back of your arm. You can do it yourself, but I think it's easier if you have someone helping you. And it's basically just a little injection where it's you don't see the needle. You just unscrew this little cap. You just press it on you. It clicks. It shoots into your arm. You really don't even feel it. It's like the smallest little pinch. I wouldn't even call it a pinch. It's like more of a poke. And then you're in. And so I use Levels. I'll tag, their website. And it was really interesting. Right off the bat, what I realized, and I knew this was going to happen, but you see it for the first time, is you open the app, you can see your blood glucose in that moment. And immediately, for the first time in my life, you realize, all these other devices I've worn, Whoops, Auras, Apple Watches, Fitbits, all these things over the years, you see little points of data that are usually a reaction to things that you did, inclusive of what you ate, potentially. And then you're wearing a CGM device, and for the first time, you can see in the moment what's happening to your blood glucose as you eat, which for anybody listening, that is the coolest part. That is genuinely the coolest part of the whole thing, is that, you eat that slice of pizza, and then you can see how long it takes for your body to start releasing glucose to take care of that quote unquote problem. And for me, what transpired over the next 90 days, I did this for 90 days. And this is a high level overview in today's podcast. And I really wanted to put this out there for everyone who's ever thought about getting one, who has seen it on Instagram and just didn't know what it was, or someone who's been on the fence and actually has done some research and wanted to try. The first thing before I go into any of the results, I just wanted to call this out because this is really important. Any product, any brand that I call out in here, it's not a boost up for them or a tear down attempt for them either. And what I mean by that is, just like wearing the Whoop or the Aura, everyone's data is going to be different. Everything impacts everyone in a different way. So just because I had a weird spike, a glucose spike from a certain product, does not mean you will, actually. And there's definitely going to be some similarities across the board, some obvious ones that I'll talk about. But just in general, I just want to make sure I make that crystal clear that, any of the brands that I'm about to say that I had negative impacts from, that I honestly had consumed quite a bit of day to day or week to week, that's not a knock on the brand necessarily. It's just me letting you know. So I'll start off with things that actually were good. We'll start off with the good, because I think the bad will be interesting just to dive into. Things that I have on a regular basis that didn't cause me a lot of issues. Greek yogurt. That was one I didn't think it really would, but I have one of those, I'm going to butcher this, Oikos, Oikos, just the high protein Greek yogurts. Those are great. When it comes to just like drinks during the day, like the zero sugar Pellegrinos, those were great. Never had any real spike from those. For lunch and dinner, Kelly and I have been really, honestly, ever since Grayson was born, so it's about a year and a half now, have been doing the weekly factor meals. So for lunch and dinner, I mean, typically we're doing a variety of, it's pretty basic. Most of my meals are keto in general. They're, higher in fat, higher in protein, lower in carb. Never had any meals during that whole 90-day period that were negative from those. One that everyone who knows me will laugh at is energy drinks. So I'm a caffeine addict. I openly talk about that. And I use this as an opportunity to test a lot of different products. Two that were great during this period, Haywell, which I'll link below, a great brand from Chicago here. Definitely more of a better for you. They have some products that are caffeinated that I tried. No effect at all from those. So those were great. The other one was actually Zoa Energy. So the Rox energy drink company. Those also had basically no glucose effect. Egg whites, pretty obvious. Anything egg-based, just honestly, meats, they shouldn't really have any effect. Breakfast sausage from Costco, that's something my wife makes a lot. And then this one was interesting because I actually assumed this might cause a blood glucose spike, but Premier protein shake. So they have those protein shakes from Costco that we pick up. I assumed that those probably had some synthetic sugars that would make my glucose spike. And those actually didn't. So that's not a huge list, right? And so what I think you'll learn if you ever wear one of these, proteins, most fats, and complex carbs are hit or miss. Again, everyone's going to be different. I definitely have a very drastic spike from carbs. And I would argue from other folks I've talked to, mine seem to be more aggressive than others. So here's some of the ones that were big spikes. Like these are negative spikes, which to give everyone kind of a rundown, what that means. You really want the biggest surprise, and actually I'll just jump to the stuff that's obvious. Me and my wife every now and then do deep dish pizza. Horrible, really rough. And what I was saying about spikes, let me jump back to that really quick, is for metabolic health, you really want to have just consistent blood glucose throughout the day and night. You're obviously going to have swings, and there's a lot of debate over whether getting spikes in your data is even that bad. Either way, you don't want to have big spikes after you eat something, and especially you don't want to have multiple spikes. So some of these things I'll hit on, not only did I have a spike, but it would kind of calm down and then spike again. And it would do that 3 or 4 times, and especially if I ate a dinner and then went to bed, and then there were multiple spikes through the night. That's just really not good for your metabolic health. Pizza, obviously not great. We eat Mexican food, honestly, probably at least once a week. It's a go-to for us on the weekends. Those were okay, but they definitely had multiple spikes and big spikes. So, talking about deep fried things, including chips, tortillas, all that stuff, not great. The one that was actually the biggest surprise that was like a takeout type of food, I didn't think it'd be good, but I was shocked how bad it was sushi. We just got like normal sushi rolls for the most part. And I was seeing, a powerful spike would be, something 30, 40, 50 on the chart. Sushi was 107. And then what was crazy about it was the spikes after were smaller and smaller and smaller, but it went on for over 6 hours after I went to sleep. So what that means is your body is just in fight or flight trying to get glucose out of your system well after you go to bed. So sushi was really, really bad. Deep dish pizza was also bad. Mexican food, not great. So those things, obviously moderation for me now is a big takeaway. One of the biggest surprises, and this again, not a knock on the brand, but just I think in general how I handle this type of product was overnight oats. Mush is one of those brands that I love the brand themselves, and some of the products are delicious. I just don't process oats very well. And I started with Mush, and I tried like a Costco brand. It had the same effects. I had almost a 75 bump in the morning when I had it, and then it carried on, which is the thing I didn't like about that either. So for me personally in the morning, overnight oats in general, oatmeal, I just didn't process it very well. Another one that really sucked, I was shocked at, but also not surprised because there's a lot of natural carbs in it, was RX bars. To be honest, like protein bars for me, especially ones that are higher in carbs, this didn't do well. So RX bar was another one. And again, all these things doesn't mean I can't have them. It's just putting them in moderation. Not a surprise here, but this goes to show when there's something that has 0 calories or low calories, but is really sweet, it can also be a really bad thing. Diet Coke, Ghost energy drinks, both of those had really big spikes for me. I have actually continued to drink Ghost energy drinks post doing this test. The main reason for that was a totally different topic, but the B12 they use in here is one of the only I can find that has it, which is supposed to be a better version than what's in a lot of energy drink products. So whole nother story. But some of these, like Diet Coke, zero calories, obviously, but it's these artificial sweeteners that actually drove the biggest spike for me. Those are really the big ones. A couple non-alcoholic cocktails I tried. They're obviously very sugary, very, very high in nature. So what it does, I guess I'll wrap this up for everybody today. Really, really interesting product. I think metabolic health will continue to be a big, big innovative area of health for a lot of people. Right now, the obvious one, I got my first Whoop strap in 2018. And, that's taken another 6 years to really become on the scene. I think most people at this point have seen one or heard of one. Aura has become a lot more popular. Those just like on the surface wearable, a lot lower barrier to entry. Getting someone to jab something into your arm and walk around wearing a needle in there is a totally different one. But I do think it's an incredible product and it's an incredible app. Levels, I do give them a big shout out. I think it's a huge opportunity for everyone, just to, even if you wear it for a few months like me. My plan, just so everyone knows who's listening, this gave me a playbook of like things that are good, things that are bad. Try to remove more of the things that are bad, continue to eat things that are good. I'm going to then let this play out for a while, do another blood test, probably, wait at least 6 to 9 months from the first one, see if anything has changed. And then I'll probably do another round of levels. It's probably what's going to be my plan, at least for now, is to, test, learn, pivot, go back, do it again. I think that what that'll do is just allow me to try to get better and better and keep learning more and more about my body. So anyway, I hope you guys like this one. If you guys do like it, please reach out. Let me know. It'll be cool if this is something people enjoy. There's a lot of these that I have kind of waiting on the sidelines that I'd love to keep doing. And if it's really, really interesting, I'd love to try to get some of the founders of some of these products on here. It's something I'm actively working on. So let me know what you think. And I don't say this enough, but if you love the show, if you have gotten any value from this podcast over the years, if you could leave a review, subscribe, share it with your friends, all that stuff helps drastically just build the size of the platform and ultimately get better guests on here. So if you guys liked it, please do all that. And thank you for listening. I really appreciate you guys. And we'll be back with another one soon. All right. Thanks.